out told our Bruce Feldman, Fernando Mendoza is a better prospect than Cam Ward, although Cam moves better, and he's a better prospect than Drake Maye, and this personnel director said, and I like Drake Maye. Everybody does. So what's interesting about this, when Sam Darnold came out, I said his comp to me, one of his comps was a poor man's Brett Favre. Well, I got a lot of crap for that. For the record, they both have one Super Bowl trophy. But if you go look at the completion percentage for Favre and Darnold, it's identical, 62%. Yards per attempt in their career, identical, 7.1, 7.2. Touchdown to interception ratio, Darnold, Favre, identical. Passer ratings, 86, identical. Super Bowl titles, identical. Both also were small-town guys, tough as a $4 steak, loved by their teammates, sometimes got reckless. Both struggled with their first team, Falcons and Jets, but eventually end up with a great GM and a great coach and have a great career. Now, Favre is better than Darnold, but they're both, near the, they're first-round talent. And Darnold is, like Favre, is tough, and he moves, plus arm. He's athletic. Both Favre and Darnold get a little reckless, little hero ball. But when they get the right coach, they win a lot of games. Their division, playoff games, Super Bowl, that's what they are. Remember, the knock on Favre was, God, he threw interceptions at the worst time. That was Darnold until he hoisted a trophy. Like when Brett ended up with Minnesota, had that game won against, I forget even who they were playing. They had the game won, he throws a pick, and you're like, you gotta be kidding me. That's a little Darnold. So I am not saying Favre's not better than Darnold, but there's a lot of traits. So when I see the Bruce Feldman story on Fernando Mendoza, and I'm going to say this, Fernando Mendoza has a little bit of a poor man's Andrew Luck. Both went to non-traditional football powers with quirky coaches. Both are often better when they get hit in the mouth. Andrew Luck used to say, until I take a shot, the game doesn't start. Both Fernando Mendoza and Andrew Luck have a short memory because they're going to throw some ugly picks, and they shake it off and forget about it. Both come from great families. Both are big. Both have excellent ball placement. Both ended up being very, very good players in tight games late. Both didn't play with the best rosters, but elevated teammates. Intellect, toughness, family, short memory, size, like to get popped before they really, really develop in a game. Power throwers. So, come on. You can say what you want about this stuff, but the Darnold Favre thing was not crazy. If you go look at the numbers, and Favre's better. Favre had a much better career. Sam's got 6 more years.
Okay, listen. You really can't compare older players to modern ones. It's just not feasible. Tua Tagovailoa has a better completion percentage and a higher passer rating than John Elway. And if Tua plays as many games as Elway, which he might not, given how things are going for him, he'll have more passing yards and more touchdowns. You simply can't do it. I learned this very quickly when I was debating someone in the comment section, and they brought up older players. I looked up their stats and compared them to modern numbers, and it was night and day. You just can't. It's like basketball stats too. The shot selection in the 80s and 90s compared to the modern era is completely different. The shots that Kobe and MJ took were shots you just wouldn't take now. So comparing two older players is honestly very meaningless to me. It truly is. And with Mendoza, that's why I actually appreciate the conversation. The anonymous NFL scouting executive saying he's a better prospect than Cam Ward or Drake Maye, at least that's recent. At least it's within the last couple of seasons. So that adds a bit more context, or at least paints a picture of how this executive feels about Mendoza, right? Looking at Sam Darnold and saying, oh, he's like a Brett Favre, I don't know what that does for me right now. If we looked at Mendoza and said, hey, he reminds me of Brett Favre, I wouldn't know what that means in 2026 at this point. But I do know what a Cam Ward level prospect and a Drake I level prospect mean. Because a lot of these comments you see from anonymous executives or even people in the media like Albert Breer, when they make references, the least they can do is paint a picture of how that person is seeing things. So I always encourage people not to get too lost in the comparison. It's just used as a way to highlight how you feel about a player. In 2024, when Jaden Daniels was absolutely balling and people said, "This is reminding me of Lamar Jackson," I remember Mike Tomlin came out and pretty much said that's ridiculous. The Steelers beat the Commanders, and he said something like, "Now we're on to the real MVP." And it was like, dude, settle down. People are just trying to find a framework, a way to illustrate how they think about a player. No one is saying Jaden Daniels is exactly like Lamar, or that Sam Darnold is exactly like Brett Favre. But once you start diving into exact statistics, look, they have the same passer rating, the same this, they both have one Super Bowl, then we're going too far. We're going too far with this. And with Mendoza, it's so split in the media. I really think, and this is what the GM for the Chiefs said, because I watched a little segment of him talking. He was trying to encourage fans to watch. He was essentially being interviewed, but it was really just an ad for the draft, pretty much why you should tune in. He even said, "This is not maybe a year where we have all these quarterbacks being drafted, because that's what brings everyone in. Everyone wants to know, are there 5 or 6 quarterbacks who could go in the first round? Where are they all going? Are the Vikings getting Bo Nix or J.J. McCarthy?" There were rumors that the Chargers were going to move on from Justin Herbert and get J.J. McCarthy to reunite Harbaugh with McCarthy. I said that was the most absurd thing ever, and I also pointed out that it was just used to hype people up to watch the draft, even though it's nonsense. You know, is Caleb going first? Is it Jaden? Drake May? There was all that hype, and they don't have that right now. So they really have to milk the Mendoza angle. Is he actually a great prospect or not? Are the Raiders making the biggest mistake imaginable? Nick said, the Raiders should trade down. And I saw a bunch of Chiefs fans in the comment section saying, yeah, the Raiders don't have a long-term vision. They don't know what it takes to be great. And it's like, yeah, okay. And yet, if you asked any team that needs a quarterback whether they could draft the next Drake May, every single team would say yes without hesitation. Again, I don't lean too heavily on anonymous NFL scouting executives. I have no idea how good this guy is at his job. No idea what his track record is for evaluating players. So I'm not going to put too much weight on it. But I've been pro Mendoza from the start. I don't need to say he reminds me of some player from the past. I've just been saying things like, if why? Oh, you get Kirk Cousins level production out of him, you're going to be a great team. It'll be a home run, considering how well run this Raiders organization is right now. And if you want to use Sam Darnold as an example, look at him as soon as he got to Minnesota and Seattle. Back-to-back years, those teams were elite, top teams in the NFL, competitive, true Super Bowl contenders, and one year they won the Super Bowl. Again, you can't hold Sam Darnold hostage for not winning with the Minnesota Vikings in a single year and losing in the playoffs, because that's happened to Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning. It's happened to every single quarterback who's ever had any real success in the NFL. So if you have a quarterback who can put your team in a position to be competitive year after year, the rest just comes down to the details. The rest comes down to the little things. And that's up to the Raiders to figure out. That's why you don't pass on a quarterback who can put you in a position to be competitive and not be a liability. I think that's the other thing. People say, how many playoff wins does Kirk Cousins have? Listen, he didn't get to a great team when he was in his absolute physical prime, and then he got banged up and injured. But the reality is that when Kirk Cousins is at his best, can he take over a game like Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen? No. But does he end up being a liability for his team? The answer is no. So first and foremost, find yourself a quarterback who isn't a liability. Someone who doesn't remove you from a position to succeed. Look at the backup quarterback for the Denver Broncos. People argued that Bo Nix wasn't the main reason the Broncos were winning games. That was the real argument. Nick Wright even said that if any team is going to have to win with a backup quarterback, it's going to be the Broncos. That was his argument. Bo Nix obviously proved, especially against the Buffalo Bills, that he was a reason they won, a huge reason. But even if you don't want to give him that credit, he wasn't a reason they were losing. He wasn't a reason they were losing. That's the floor. If you just have that, you're golden. CJ Stroud, you could argue he was a reason they lost. You didn't have to be the reason they won. You just needed to not be the reason they lost. And that wasn't the case for him. You can get far by simply not being the reason you lose. So if you can draft a quarterback who can just be the reason you don't lose, again, that's the floor, to be very clear. That is just the floor. If you're a well-run team, well-coached, and you build good rosters over the years, you're going to be consistently great and consistently knocking on the door of contention. And when you have a quarterback who can actually elevate, then you're really in a position to win. And if you have a truly great quarterback, then you're talking about building a Hall of Fame career. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you all think about Fernando Mendoza? We're getting so close to the draft. I'm going to be live streaming the draft. I should have said that at the top, but I'm going to be live streaming it. I cannot wait. I'm actually really excited because it is kind of chaotic. I don't really know what moves people are going to make or where anyone's going to go, especially with the lack of quarterbacks in this draft. Everything feels on the table right now. So please check that out. We'll be live streaming it. But yeah, let me know your thoughts. I read every single comment. Whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get into some discussions. Let's get into some debates. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. Please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I'd absolutely love to see you be part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. It really does help with visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.